president had his physical recently, as you know. He had perfect results. He's in very good shape. I think those of you who traveled to the Middle East with us last week can attest to the president's endurance. And by the way, I will add, we returned home from a very long and tiring trip last week. And on Saturday, where was the president? In the Oval Office working all day. He doesn't stop. He doesn't quit. He's in great health, and he trusts his physicians.
Two more things. Putin ghosted everybody at these peace talks last week. As President Trump phones him today to try to figure out an end to the Ukraine war, does he think that Putin is the good guy or the bad guy?
I'll let the president speak on that conversation later. He's made his feelings about both sides of this war quite clear throughout it. He wants to see it end.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and let's get one thing straight. Vladimir Putin invaded a sovereign nation. He bombed civilians, he stole children, he committed war crimes, he poisoned dissidents, he pushed political opponents out of windows, he slaughtered over 1 million of his own people in a war that he started, a war that he refuses to end. This is a man who should be rotting in The Hague, and yet somehow Donald Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, still can't say that he's the bad guy.
As President Trump phones him today to try to figure out an end to the Ukraine war, does he think that Putin is the good guy or the bad guy?
I'll let the president speak on that conversation later. He's made his feelings about both sides of this war quite clear throughout it. He wants to see it end.
And the last one, what does President Trump mean when he says that Taylor Swift is no longer hot?
Look, he is speaking about Taylor Swift's political views and how perhaps it has impacted the support of the American public for her work, and I will leave it at that.
You're joking, right? Let's break this down. At a press conference, Peter Doocy from Fox News, of all people, asked the softest, slowest pitch a U.S. press secretary could possibly get. Does Donald Trump think Vladimir Putin is the good guy or the bad guy? And what does BS Barbie do? She laughs, she dodges, she spins out some pre-chewed word salad about how President Trump has made his feelings clear and wants peace. No, ma'am, that is not an answer. That's cowardice in a red pantsuit, clutching a cross made of MAGA hats and melted down yard signs. Every time Karoline Leavitt steps behind the podium, it's like she's auditioning for The Apprentice, post-democracy edition. The next thing she'll tell us is that Donald Trump swam the English Channel, climbed Everest, and rescued a nest of bald eagles before clocking in to save America with unmatched grace and golden golf clubs. Give us a break. She's not briefing the public. She's narrating a QVC special for the downfall of democracy. And even then, she couldn't find the backbone to say what should be obvious to anyone with a conscience. Putin is the bad guy.
The discussions about a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine are underway now. He said they were starting immediately after the conclusion of the call, and he went on, part of a long post. The tone and spirit of the conversation were excellent. If it wasn't, I would say so now rather than later. Russia wants to do large-scale trade with the United States when this catastrophic bloodbath is over, and I agree. There's tremendous opportunity for Russia to create massive amounts of jobs and wealth.
So what is all this media spin? Because this whole spectacle was leading up to a big diplomatic moment, a 2-hour phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, where we're told Trump would be tough, that he'd set conditions, that he'd make peace. Spoiler alert, none of that happened. Trump didn't confront Putin. He didn't demand a withdrawal. He didn't call out war crimes or bring up stolen children. He didn't lead. He begged, he babbled, he blamed everyone but the actual war criminal on the other side of the line. Meanwhile, Vladimir Zelensky offered a no-conditions ceasefire, a real olive branch. And what did Putin do? He spit on it, doubled down, sent low-level officials to talks in Istanbul, people with no power to negotiate. Then he launched one of the largest drone assaults Ukraine has ever seen. And what did Donald Trump call it? Productive. Let's be real. Putin doesn't fear Trump. Putin favors Trump because Trump is the easiest mark on the global stage. He's not a threat. He's a fan. All ego, no spine. And just like that, the media circus revved up to play cover. parading out military-themed influencers and patriotic packaging to reinforce the image that Trump is somehow the only one who can fix the crisis.
I mean, it's clear at this point that Putin thinks he has an upper hand and wants to continue the war and does not want to do the kind of comprehensive deal that Trump is looking for. But at the same time, despite these increasing threats from the White House, just given everything we know about Trump going back for a decade now, it's very difficult to imagine Trump confronting Putin or escalating pressure against him. You really get a sense that Trump wants to be in Putin's good graces. So I think Trump, based on what we know, will be very eager to take anything from Putin, maybe some kind of a partial brief ceasefire like we saw the Russians agree to weeks ago, something very limited and partial, and say that he's making progress and essentially kick the can down the road. That would be one very likely scenario to me.
Now look, we respect service. We respect sacrifice. And we're not here to attack one veteran to boost another. But what we can call out is the broader machine that turns real war into cable news content, where commentary starts sounding less like concern and more like cosplay. Because it's one thing to analyze conflict. It's another to romanticize authoritarianism. When phrases like Russia can fight forever are delivered with a grin and a shrug, it stops being strategy and starts sounding like surrender. And that should worry all of us. Because this isn't a movie. This isn't a set. These are real people, real bombs, real death. And if the press won't call out Donald Trump's dangerous allegiance with Putin, you better believe they'll cover his cosplay tour. World leaders must be shaking in their boots, not from strength, but from sheer confusion. This is a man who's now portrayed himself as the Pope, a Jedi Master, and a rock star. That's not satire. That's Trump's own propaganda. Just last week, he posted an AI-generated video of himself rocking out to Don't Stop Believin', strutting across the stage like a bloated lounge act on his third farewell tour. Forget diplomacy. We've entered the era of delusion with a soundtrack. This is the kind of distraction the right wants you to focus on. They'd rather show you Trump jamming to Journey than show you Trump dodging every opportunity to hold Putin accountable. They want flags and fireworks, not facts and follow through. But cosplay isn't courage. AI videos aren't leadership. And pretending to be a Jedi doesn't mean you can face down real authoritarianism. Meanwhile, the real defenders of democracy are walking a red carpet in France. At the Cannes Film Festival, Bono, frontman for U2, premiered his new documentary, Stories of Surrender. But he didn't bring actors. He brought warriors. Ukrainian soldiers, artists, musicians, survivors. One is a drone operator who plays the bandura, Ukraine's national instrument. Another is a frontline scout who lost her eye but still plays violin. There were opera singers, one of whom took a bullet through the lung. Another now a press officer, once carried evacuees under fire. They call themselves the cultural force because they're not just fighting with weapons. They're fighting with truth, art, and music. And Bono stood beside them and said, "This festival was set up to fight fascism." Sean brought us some friends from the front lines of Ukraine. They're called the cultural force. I just want to thank you because you're keeping us free. Thank you. Merci. Slava Ukraine. Viva la France. That's how you confront fascism. Not with fantasy, but with facts. Not with cosplay, but with courage. And here we are, just weeks away from the 80th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944, when the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy to crush Hitler's regime. Back then, we didn't hesitate. We didn't both sides tyranny. We didn't smile awkwardly and pass the question to someone else. We knew who the bad guy was, and we acted. Those soldiers didn't dodge hard questions. They didn't smirk behind podiums and wait for a poll. They didn't flirt with fascism. They fought it. And now, 80 years later, we've got a press secretary who can't call Putin the bad guy, a former president who calls war criminals for peace talks, and a media ecosystem that sometimes treats war like it's just another brand to sell. We didn't storm the beaches of Normandy for this. We didn't bury heroes in foreign soil so spokespeople could hide behind talking points or so one man could grovel to a dictator on live TV. Putin is a war criminal. Trump is his mouthpiece. And Karoline Leavitt, BS Barbie herself, just proved that this moment doesn't have the moral clarity to lead anything. This isn't just a political crisis. This is a collapse of courage. And if we can't even say the bad guy is the bad guy, then we're not just on the wrong side of history. We're not even in the damn fight. Slava Ukraine. And may we never forget what we were supposed to be fighting for. And that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.